of the red hat, Yuquan asked, "What's going on here? Who is that?" The guy replied, "The Ghost King." Yuquan asked in confusion, "The Ghost King? Is that Liam Raynor?" He thought, the captain of the Demon Extermination Squad, one of the surviving heroes who put an end to the fight against the demons. Yuquan frowned in annoyance and thought, the horror. He didn't know he would have to deal with this. They were only told to destroy a small village. It's too late to run away. He grabbed his spear in annoyance and screamed, "Terrible idiot." He rushed towards Liam and ordered him to die. Liam clenched his fist and thrust it towards the tip of the spear. Yuquan's body exploded, and Liam turned around and said, The boy screamed, "Uncle, why didn't he teach him swordsmanship? He's so strong." Liam smirked and replied, "He already told him he can't swordsmanship." He narrowed his eyes and thought, Prince Zion said that the village would die. He didn't warn him because of a couple of mercenaries. Then what a horror. Suddenly the red sky was covered with dark clouds, and the boy screamed, "Uncle?" Liam looked up and said, "This." He thought, this is a barrier. This one is so high level that he can't even understand the nature of it. And it's so huge, he can't feel anything outside of it. The village has been isolated. Liam said, "A ghost legion." He thought, cursed by the ancient god Kronos, doomed to exist forever. An army of the living dead. He alone can't stop them, unless he ascends to heaven. Otherwise, he will never be able to stop the legion by himself. Did Prince Zion know about this disaster from the beginning? The people saw the dead and screamed, "We must run." Where? Oh God. They asked him to save them. Liam ordered the boy to stand here, and he screamed, "Uncle." Liam walked forward and thought he must protect them. Suddenly he was asked to wait, and he turned around. Behind Liam stood Lucina, saying, he is not allowed to take someone else's loot. If that, she's been waiting for this moment for so long. Lucina walked forward, and Liam wondered what she was doing here. It doesn't look like she can handle it by herself. Lucina walked past him and waved her hand. She said she can handle it. And who said she is alone? Suddenly dark energy burst out of her body, and dark animals appeared. Liam looked at it in surprise, and Lucina said, she will destroy them all. The animals rushed towards the dead and began to destroy the barrier, when suddenly MC jumped into the hole in it. Zion thought, even from here he feels incredible energy. No wonder they are considered one of the 7 disasters. In the Frozomar Chronicles, the hero destroyed the Ghost Legion along with his comrades, and he has no comrades. Lucina commanded the animals and laughed joyfully. She ordered them to die and the animals to kill them all. Zion thought, but he was well prepared for the attack of the Ghost Legion. He has the Witch of Heavenly Slaughter, Lucina Bloodwalker. MC looked towards the monsters and thought, where are they from? He found it. Different energy and aura, not like the others. A creature whose presence is felt from afar. This idiot leads the Ghost Legion. The king cursed by Kronos. He is his target. Lucina dealt with the dead and laughed joyfully. She said she was just delighted. It was not for nothing that she followed him, Lord. MC replied, they still need something. Lucina thought about it and said that she understood. First, she will clear the way. She raised her hand up and began to create an energy flow. She directed it towards the dead and incinerated their bodies. Lucina screamed, Lord. Zion mounted his black horse and rushed forward. He thought, there was only one reason he forced them to summon the Ghost Legion. He was heading there himself. This is the only way to obtain the Kronos weapon. The owner of the coordinate for summoning the Legion must directly participate in the battle. This is the first condition for obtaining Kronos. He struck the dead and activated his dark eyes. He thought, he just needs to stop those who targeted his weak points and deal with the rest. He whipped his horse and thought, faster. He gripped the hilt of the sword and swung it and thought, black dot. He touched the tip of the enemy's sword with his sword, and it was destroyed. Zion said, go ahead. He activated darkness and then the force back. The spirits headed towards him and MC used black flash. He thought, this should be enough to instantly tear them apart. He created an energy mace and approached the dead, swung it. He approached the enemy and smirked slightly. The battle with the Dark Knight began, whose sword split into several pieces, and MC swung again. The Dark Knight activated his mana, releasing it into the sword, and Zion thought, concentrate the black star in Eclaxia. He activated black flash and evaporated, and the Dark Knight looked around in confusion. MC tried to strike him from behind, but he failed. He pushed away from him and somersaulted in the air thought, and again, he again approached the monster and swung his sword. Zion hit the enemy's helmet with his sword and then decided to dodge. The Dark Knight said that he would not lose to him. He pushed him aside and spoke. He was waiting for this battle. He waited with the hope that this endless punishment would finally end. But why? Why is he so weak? Zion looked at him with displeasure and thought, there was definitely a huge gap between their powers. Even when he strengthened the Black Star, the attack didn't go through. He doesn't know if raising the Black Star to the 3rd level will do anything, but he's too strong now. Even resorting to immortal powers isn't enough. That means he only has one choice. MC gripped the hilt of his sword and created a large black flash. At this moment, Karen asked, Prince Zion came all the way here? The guy replied, they need to keep going. The captain of the 5th unit of the Ash Lion Squad, Karen frowned and said, he followed him because that was Princess Evelyn's order. But to think that the Ash Lion Squad has the duty to look after the captured prince. Paulo, the vice captain of the 5th unit of the Ash Lion Squad, laughed and said, still, It's nice to leave the capital for a while for such a peaceful scenery. He said to enjoy this view. Karen said, Paulo, he's too calm. Suddenly, Paulo's eyes widened in surprise and said, This, Captain, this can't be. Karen ordered the 5th unit of the Ash Lion squad to approach the barrier. At this moment, the Dark Knight was fighting MC and looked at him in confusion. He swung his sword when suddenly MC used Lunar Eclipse. In an instant, all the Black Star energy concentrated in the body explodes and the abilities overcome the limits. This is one of Zion's best techniques, the best amplifier. MC swung his sword and struck the Dark Knight. He blocked, and Zion said that he wanted to ask something. So which one of them is weaker now? He sent his mana towards him and disappeared. At this moment, the knights were standing near the barrier. Paulo asked, It was more difficult, right? Karen said, So they didn't even fight giants. Paulo said thoughtfully, Usually barriers like this are used to lock in what's inside, so it should be more vulnerable on the outside. He thought, Prince Zion is definitely locked in there, or maybe he's already dead. At that moment, the order was given for everyone to disperse. Karen swung his sword and thought, This is not enough. Again, he swung again and thought, he needs to concentrate all his strength. From his blow, a crack appeared on the barrier, and Paulo shouted, Now, we need to break through the crack and not let the barrier recover. The knights began to hit the barrier with their swords, and soon broke through it. Karen entered inside and said, Great, they got inside. The knights stopped and looked around in confusion. Karen asked, What kind of monsters are those? His eyes widened in surprise as he saw MC off to the side, who was fighting the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight looked in surprise at MC, who was quickly striking him. He asked, How dare he? Zion struck him and wounded him, and the knight decided that he would not let it go that easily. MC said, It won't work this time. He swung his sword again and grabbed the Dark Knight by the helmet. He hit him with his knee and thought, There is about a minute left. He needs to make it. Zion swung his sword and the knight thought he suddenly became stronger. Although a few moments ago he was inferior to him. This power, his black sword, and the alien darkness that permeates his body, maybe he really is. The knight created an energy flow, and Zion covered his face with his hand. The Dark Knight spoke. At first he did not realize that it was him, because he was too weak, but now he is impressed. Apparently he really does have the coordinate of the Kronos court, and at the same time he is the one who will save them from this endless hellish war. They have waited so long, that they have already lost track of time. If he can withstand it, he will acknowledge him. The Dark Knight created a huge stream called Pure Sea of Flame and sent it upward. Karen said it was incredible. MC narrowed his eyes and thought, the lunar eclipse will last for another 5 seconds, so he can only attack directly. The knight ordered to show them and Zion swung his sword. From now on until the end of days, they will repeat the battle they loved so much, without a chance for life or death, until only one of them remains. He will stand on the battlefield and regret the past. In this endlessly repeating battle, the king of the god-forsaken army waited, for the one who will put an end to his cursed fate will finally appear. A bright flash appeared on the battlefield. The protagonist calmly picked up the weapon shrouded in dark mana. After a while, the king of the legion looked down and asked, "What was that?" The protagonist answered, "A bottomless abyss." The opponent noted that how accurately said. He thanked the judge and said that thanks to MC, he can finally rest. Zion remained silent, looking at the developing dark smoke. The protagonist thought that he had defeated the army, and it was time to move on to the next target. He calmly stuck his hand into the portal. After a while, the protagonist announced that he was there. The guard asked, "Did the cursed army plunge into eternal sleep?" MC isn't going to ask who he is. Zion thought it was a guard. Even the chronicles only know one thing about him. The protagonist asked, "Where are the 5 questions?" The guard asked, "Does MC already know what artifact he wants to get?" Nothing else was expected from the hero. The guard ominously pointed a finger in his direction and asked him to wait. He irritably noted that MC is not a hero. What does this mean? Fate is already predetermined. The hero will destroy the army and come here. Zion asked, "What does fate predetermined mean?" The guard clarified, "At what point did everything get mixed up? This is problematic." MC asked, "What is the guard talking about?" The guard smiled madly and raised his hand, clarifying that he is right. The protagonist is also a hero, which means he deserves to know. Does MC know what fate is? A record of their past, present, and future is luck. The time allotted to them in this world is fate, and altogether, destiny. It is predetermined from the very beginning. There is no escape from it. No change to it. Some say they are the creators of their own destiny. This is completely untrue. Destiny has decided that the hero who defeated the cursed army will stand here, but the protagonist came much earlier than expected. The guard thought that destiny cannot be changed. Zion wondered, does destiny mean chronicles? The guard calmly said, "What does it mean? A variable has appeared in destiny, caused by the intervention of a transcendental being." He approached the protagonist's face and added that he simply cannot understand what happened. The guard wondered why he cannot see MC's destiny, as if the protagonist is not of this world. Zion raised his hand and clarified, "Does this mean the guard does not give him anything?" The guard smiled and replied that it was not so. Since the protagonist was here, MC deserves to receive 5 questions. Zion noted that apparently this is also a kind of destiny. The guard handed the protagonist a gold bracelet, and MC thought that these were 5 questions of Kronos, a myth-grade artifact that contains the power of the 5 questions that the ancient god Chronom asked of the people. 5 multicolored stones inlaid into the bracelet. Each of them symbolizes a question, and each contains a power that surpasses natural disasters. Zion looked at the bracelet and thought that even though all the stones are disposable, the myth grade is the most suitable for this item. The guard pointed to the bracelet and said that one question was missing. It will appear when MC uses the coordinates it owns. The Ghost Legion was born from the power of this question. The guard with a crazy look asked to ask only one thing and wondered who the protagonist was. Zion lowered his head and replied that he was not sure. He disappeared after asking the question. After a while, Karen asked in amazement what was going on. He thought that the king of the Ghost Legion created the Sword of Disaster. Prince Zion destroyed this sword with one blow. How is this even possible? Where did the protagonist disappear to? Lucina asked, did they all come to kill the master too? She asked with a crazy look. Are they his enemies too? Paulo disagreed and replied that they were warriors. They were sent here by Her Highness Princess Evelyn to protect Prince Zion. General Liam noted that this was probably true. At least the Karen he knew would not accept an assassination order. Karen looked away in surprise and asked what the general was doing here. Just don't tell him that the general came here after retiring? Liam calmly replied that he was. Who would have thought that these two could deal with an entire army without help? Karen smiled and said that it was a relief that the general was okay. Does Liam know what happened here? Liam pointed at Lucina and replied that they could see everything for themselves. A ghost legion appeared, and Prince Zion and this girl defeated it. Karen asked in surprise, what about those monsters that fought the Ghost Legion? Lucina turned her head to the side and asked where the master went. A portal instantly appeared and the protagonist stepped out of it. Lucina happily clarified. MC returned. The knights called out to his highness. Zion, tired, said he needed to rest. 5 days later, the protagonist said he was leaving. Liam lowered his head and replied that he would join them. MC clarified. Will the general go with him? Liam noted that a promise is a promise. He thought that of course he would like to linger in the village. The protagonist disagreed and asked him to stay here for now. MC thought that first, in order to leave the Imperial City, he had to manifest himself as the successor and receive the 5 questions. Liam was just an additional variable. For now, the general might be useful to him, but he was not necessary. Of course, it would be a different story when the full-scale war with the demons began. Zion clarified that he would contact the general when he needed Liam's help. The general noted that the protagonist had always exceeded his expectations. In that case, he did not mind. Liam and the villagers bowed goodbye and he asked to contact him when he needed the general. The protagonist replied as he left that he would definitely do so. He thought confidently that they had grown up. The people left behind before leaving the Imperial family. It was time to take everything. After some time, Eileen asked, had the Ghost Legion disappeared? The assistant confirmed this and handed her the report. He noted that this report was provided by their special intelligence agent Nari. He had been tracking Prince Zion, so there should be no mistakes. Eileen looked at the report and read that, according to the report, Prince Zion and his people had arrived in the village. He set up a barrier and called in an army. When the barrier fell, the Ghost Legion had already been destroyed. No one was left alive except the prince himself and his subordinate, a woman with red eyes, as well as Liam, the Ghost King. An Ash Lion unit also appeared there. Aileen asked, no one else knows about this, right? The assistant agreed and replied that he was absolutely right. She thought that if this information were to become known, it would cause chaos not only in the capital, but throughout the entire country. Aileen asked, what about Prince Zion? The assistant replied that he did not think the protagonist would stop there. Presumably, his path lay to the Imperial City. Aileen thoughtfully put her hand to her chin and looked at the report and wondered, MC wanted her to report to him right in the Imperial Palace and pass on the information to the assembly members. The assistant added that there was also a person who was considered a hero. Eileen asked to tell her more. At the same time, the protagonist was calmly sitting on the floor among the mannequins. A black star fell, and the ceiling was enveloped in a glow. Dark streams of mana from the stars went to MC's body. Zion sadly lowered his head down. He stood up and thought, is it really impossible to get through to the 3 stars now? He thought that it would work this time. It's all about the body. Even though he placed the heart of a 1,000-year-old ogre in it, its basic capabilities are too low. It needs to be developed. The protagonist heard a knock on the door and asked to come in. Priscilla greeted the prince and clarified that she heard how the protagonist dealt with the Ghost Legion. So this is what the underground training ground looks like. The Imperial City only talks about it. MC asked what brought her here. Priscilla put her hand to her chest and replied that she would like to help him in his quest. Or rather, she wanted to offer him her help. Zion clarified, how? How is she going to help him? Her magical abilities are not enough even to fight mercenaries. What demons are we talking about? Maybe she is better at gathering information, or has the authority to mobilize her family or the magic tower? Zion does not mind her walking near his palace, but if she wants more, she must prove herself worthy. Priscilla sadly lowered her head and replied that she understood everything. The protagonist looked at her and thought that this should be a trigger. If Priscilla didn't want to become the princess of misfortune like in the novel, she would have to try really hard. Priscilla walked towards the exit, irritated, past the protagonist's assistants. Thierry said that the cross-check that MC had asked for was complete. Besides, it looked like the coronation ceremony, where MC would be recognized as the official heir, would soon take place. But during the preparations for the ceremony, they noticed that the third Prince Enoch and Regan were plotting something. Zion asked, "Have they finally started to act?" He turned his head to the side and Thierry asked, "Can the Lord handle it alone?" Zion agreed and asked, "What about his other request?" Thierry replied that everything was ready. But will it really work out? Lyushina happily exclaimed, "Of course, the Lord had worked out the plan." She quickly pointed at herself and asked if she could go with him. Zion disagreed and replied that what she wanted so much would definitely not work out this time. He patted her on the head and added that there was business for her here. The protagonist headed to the side and asked her to wait a bit. Sometime later in the castle, Regan smiles surrounded by his comrades. He turned his head to the side and noticed Enoch standing in the distance. Regan grinned and thought that everything was ready. He noticed that the protagonist of the coronation was a little late. The people clarified. By the protagonist he meant His Highness the Prince. The man agreed and said that he heard that the protagonist subdued the Ghost Legion. Who would have thought that this Prince Zion would cope with the disaster? His Majesty probably knew that this would happen. That's why MC appointed His Highness the Prince as the heir. But did they know? They say that when the protagonist dealt with the Ghost Legion, they found the captain of the Demon Extermination Squad, Liam, who is now retired, and the Ash Lion unit. The man clarified, "Is this really true? Surely, Her Highness Princess Diana organized everything. Most likely, even the Ash Lion unit was involved. Under such circumstances, does the question of the legitimacy of the succession to the throne not arise?" The assistant grabbed the door handle and announced that His Highness, the Imperial Prince Zion, had arrived. The protagonist calmly entered the hall and headed towards the throne. Diana looked at him and noted that the last time they saw each other was when they were all gathered together in the throne room. She congratulated her brother on his victory over the Ghost Legion and added that, however, if he continued to emit such energy, no one would come near him. MC smiled and asked why he needed these people's attention. He didn't think they would be of any use. Diana clarified, "So he was only here for the ceremony?" Zion noted that it was arranged for him. "Isn't it obvious that he should attend?" Whatever it was. Diana was surprised and clarified, "Whatever it was?" The priest announced that they would now begin the coronation ceremony of His Highness Prince Zion. He asked His Highness to come up to the stage. The people looked at him in surprise. The priest looked at the scroll and said that the great empire of Agnes existed for 400 years, since the time of the first emperor, His Majesty Aurelian. Regan grinned sarcastically and asked them to wait and give him their attention. First, he would like to express his congratulations for all the achievements of the hero of the occasion, His Highness Prince Zion, who defeated the Phantom. The priest turned to him and clarified that Regan could congratulate His Highness after the coronation. Regan said that until recently, no one would have thought that His Highness would cope with one of the disasters. He was called the Captive Prince. The protagonist was a common fool. Just a couple of months ago, His Highness the Prince was a completely different person. MC passed the succession ceremony without any difficulties and even coped with the disaster. But they must say, how did His Highness change so much in such a short period of time? Even if the blood of Agnes awakened in the protagonist, it is impossible to gain such a powerful force so quickly. It cannot be comprehended by ordinary means. Enoch looked at the assistant in amazement and asked, "Is Regan hinting at Zion having obtained forbidden power?" Regan replied that he did. Mr. Protagonist must have signed a contract with a demon to learn dark magic. The people looked at MC in amazement. The aristocrat yelled in surprise, "What are they talking about?" Mr. Zion made a deal with a demon. Regan madly noticed that a trail of demonic power was following the protagonist. It was found in the Guiding Star Palace where the protagonist lives, and in the Qualification Palace where the succession ceremony was held. A normal person would never make a contract with a demon in their entire life. And here this connection is traced twice. MC is already showing symptoms confirming the borrowing of demonic power. The people asked in fear, "Is this true? How is this possible?" Regan raised his hands and said that dark magic is forbidden in the Empire. If someone from the ruling family has such power, he tarnishes the reputation of the Empire. They can't be sure yet. And yet, can they continue the ceremony given the possibility of confirming his suspicions? The people in robes stood behind Regan, and the people asked who they were. Regan resolutely raised his hands and answered that these people serve the light. They are the high priests of the church. Let them check if the prince really owns dark magic, and the wizards are here only to ensure his safety with the people. Regan looked at the girls and thought that here is their proof. Everyone present is a witness. Regan asked the prince to forgive him. A magical seal instantly appeared under the protagonist's feet. Regan thought that detaining a member of the imperial family in public is a crime for which he can be executed, but it does not matter if it helps to prove that MC really mastered dark magic. After a while, the priests crossed their hands and turned to the light of the divine, who sees everything. A bright light surrounded the protagonist, and he calmly looked down. The priests standing around him were casting the Arbat Dior spell. MC tensely raised his hands. Regan, covering his face from the light with his hand, thought that the sacred spell Arbat Dior draws out the dark power. If it is directed at a person who has made a contract with a demon, he smirked and thought that it would happen now. The light would dissipate and the dark power would manifest around the prince. The priest asked in surprise, "How so? Is the prince really like that?" Enoch smiled madly and thought that MC was finished. Regan raised his hand and said that if Zion could not cope with the dark energy, his mind might go cloudy. He asked 1 to 4 to get ready. Regan smiled happily and mentally asked the shame of the family to show their true appearance. A bright light spread throughout the hall. The smoke cleared, and Regan asked them to hold back. He instantly fell silent and looked at the protagonist. MC calmly shook the smoke off his hand. Regan asked in amazement, "But where is the dark force?" The priests turned their heads to the side in fear and called out to Sir. Zion clarified, "Everything didn't go as planned, did it?" Regan noticed with great tension that the protagonist did it on purpose to set him up. MC smiled and ordered to take them. After a while, the knights put handcuffs on Regan. People looked at what was happening in amazement. Diana smiled and thought that MC lured them into a trap using their own plan. Zion deceived Regan. Enoch's brain. The current Zion is a completely different person. That's why Regan suspected him. It's quite obvious. The protagonist looked sternly at the priest and asked, "Are they continuing the ceremony?" The priest announced that as acting emperor, he appoints the protagonist as heir. Enoch gripped the handle of the throne with fury. Diana looked at him with a smile. The protagonist went down and instantly left the castle. Lucina quickly ran towards him and asked, "Has the master returned yet?" MC noted that he has something for her. Lucina approached him and asked what it was. MC handed her a sheet and replied that it was a map with a mark of the Bloody Tower. Zion thought that the location of the tower where the wizards gather was a closely guarded secret, but the Eternal Shadows managed to find it. The protagonist said that he wants her to go there. Lucina tilted her head to the side in surprise and asked, "Why?" The protagonist replied that she should capture it. After some time in the castle prison, Regan sadly looked down and said that he was deceived. How did the protagonist even hide this? After all, there were obvious hints about his connection with the demon. How so? Regan calmed down and noted that it was very stupid. An insult to the royal family, an assassination attempt on a member of the royal family, and possibly treason. He thought that if the third prince intervened, maybe he would manage to survive. Enoch said that it hurt to the depths of his soul. Regan quickly got to his feet and called out to the third prince. Enoch pointed his finger at him furiously and said that the assistant had tried to discredit the direct descendant of the emperor and take his life. If he had known, he would have killed him with his own hands. Regan must deal with everything that happened today on his own. It has nothing to do with him. Regan understood him, right? The assistant looked at the departing prince with great surprise. He sat down on the floor and noted that he had served Enoch for so long. Who would have thought that his path would end like this? Sometime later in the Red Star Palace in the secret basement, Enoch raised his sledgehammer with great rage and yelled, "How dare these damned freaks!" He struck the man and the enemy fell to the ground. Enoch noticed that they had crossed the line. He thought that he hadn't been able to pay him enough attention because he had a bunch of fools to keep an eye on. But from now on, Zion was the first one he needed to get rid of. Maybe he should go to him for advice? Enoch walked down the corridor from which screams asking for help were heard. After a while, the demoness asked, "Is he sure?" The demon agreed and said that Cainless had disappeared, as had the coordinates. The demoness clarified that she was 90% sure that that bastard, Zion, was behind this. How did the protagonist even find out? This information was a closely guarded secret even among them. The demon replied that he had no idea. He thought that neither the oldest information organization in the Empire, nor the people holding the highest positions could stop them, or even understand that they existed. And this child went further and started hunting them, as if the protagonist knows what he's going to do. The demoness asked not to say that this freak has something like their eyes of the future. The demon clarified, and if so, even they can't find out everything with their help. The demoness asked, "So what's the matter? What if all their information about the prince is wrong?" The demon replied that it was quite possible. You need to figure out how to get rid of MC. The demoness noted that it was very interesting, both this side and the hero's side. She remembered something and said that she heard that the prince was going to visit the University Magic Tower. The demon lowered his head and added that he had heard about it, but he doesn't understand why. The demoness clarified, "Is he there? As long as he's there, they won't be caught, right?" The demon agreed and clarified that they should still notify him. After a while, Claude Lindell raised his hand and greeted His Highness. He noted that it was a great honor for them to meet him here. Claude introduced himself with a smile and said that he was a teacher of frost magic. At the same time, Priscilla wondered what she should do to become stronger. The protagonist said that he did not need her usual abilities, and the only way to improve skills in such a short time. She sadly lowered her head and the guy asked who it was. Who was this person, since the professor personally came out to meet him? Could he really be from the palace? Priscilla approached the students and wondered what was going on there. She looked out the window and instantly fell into a stupor. On the street, Claude said that MC had come to meet the master of the magic tower. Unfortunately, the master was currently absent. The professor asked to be allowed to escort the prince to the guest room while he waited. Zion turned his head to the side and interrupted him, disagreeing. He headed for the gate and clarified that he would first look into the magic tower. Claude replied that he understood him, then he would escort the prince. The protagonist confidently clenched his fist and thought, is this supposed to happen today? According to the plot of the story, one of the key moments of the narrative should happen tonight in the University Magic Tower. It will not cause such a catastrophe as the rain in Draenir. An entire city disappeared then, and this is not a ghostly legion that destroyed the village. But the moment when the heroes group will achieve perfection depends on today's event. The professor, walking down the corridor, said that the classrooms on the 4th floor are equipped with the most modern engineering systems. At the same time, the protagonist, without listening to him, thought that it was here. He turned his head to the side and asked if he could attend the lecture. Claude was surprised and thought, Prince Zion at an advanced course lecture? The protagonist sternly clarified that he did not like to repeat himself. Claude bowed and agreed with him. MC entered the office and looked at the students sitting at the tables. He turned his head to the side and thought that he had found it. Zion set his sights on Tyron Vlihalden, or rather Heinrich the Whisperer, an archmage who has broken through the limitations of the existing 9-tier magic system, the first to reach the transitional 10th tier, a legendary figure, the one who is rumored to be closest to the truth. Closer than other mages, Tyron is said to have revealed all the secrets of the world, including the end of the abyss. Whenever the strongest mage is mentioned in the Empire, his name is uttered. This is Tyron's past life, and in the future, the Archmage will become one of the hero Frozamar's companions. Laziness is a trait that Tyron was born with this time. Although he retains memories from his past lives, his magical abilities are currently quite weak. Naturally, Tyron will improve them when he joins the character's party. But the problem is that due to the incident that will happen tonight, the meeting between Tyron and the character will be delayed for a long time, and Tyron will be the last to join the party, by which time the war with the demons will have already begun. They won't have a chance to work together and fully unleash their power, but Tyron will be sent to the battlefield. This will be one of the main reasons why the character's team will lose to the Demon King, and then the Empire will fall. There are two main strategies that can prevent the end of the Empire, and with it, the world. In the first, Zion will absorb the Empire, and in the second, it will change the history of the character and his comrades. The Frozamar Chronicles is a story that ends in failure, but the protagonist must rewrite it. After a while, the professor said that thus, the academic community has so far been unable to establish a clear connection between spatial distortion and time in gravity magic. Does anyone want to speak on this topic? If you don't have any thoughts, he will give an easier lecture next time. Essien raised his hand and addressed the professor. He clarified, only students can answer the professor's question. The teacher disagreed and asked, is there something Essien wants to say? Essien replied that if others to speak, he would like to listen to His Highness the Prince. The protagonist was attending the lecture. It was said that members of the imperial family were given a well-rounded education from an early age, and thanks to their innate powers, they showed exceptional abilities in any field, which meant that the MC should have a basic knowledge of magic and understand the formula written on the board. Maybe the prince would even offer some fresh ideas regardless of his level of magic knowledge. After all, he was the prince of the great Agnes Empire. Even if the problem was unsolvable, it was useful to hear different points of view. Essien wondered how the MC dared to show himself after breaking off his engagement with Priscilla. Even if the protagonist accepted the challenge, he would have nothing interesting to say, and if he refused, he would become a fool. The professor said that the guests had not been asked questions directly related to the content of the lecture so far, so they could ask that question later. Zion disagreed and noted that Essien wanted to hear his thoughts, and he dare not refuse it. After a while, the protagonist waved his hand in front of the board. He raised the chalk up with magic. The students were very surprised, and Tyron raised his hand in admiration. MC thought that the connection between spatial distortion and time in gravity magic involves all three concepts of gravity, space, and time. This theory cannot be accurately determined with the current level of magic. According to Chronicles of the Hero of Frozamar, shortly before the start of the war with demons, a better solution to this problem was found. Even in Chronicles of the Hero of Frozamar, this formula was very rare. And yet Tyron should be interested in this. Well, of course, after all, it was the future Tyron who developed it. The Archmage devoted his entire past life to studying. The only attachment he has left, and which he has yet to get rid of, is the magic of space and time. After meeting the character, this formula will be the starting point for a satisfying ending. MC hopes that Tyron will be a little surprised when he sees it. The professor tensely turned his head to the side and thought that he had never seen such a formula before. He must write it down. The professor raised his hand in anger and ordered to bring a pen and paper. Priscilla thought that, as expected, Zion really was limitlessly talented, but that is why she felt that she had no right to stand next to him. MC calmly walked up the stairs near the tables. Essien looked at him in amazement and thought that he definitely heard that the protagonist had never studied magic. Zion sternly remarked that does the student know that he hates being tested. Essien fell to the floor in great fear. The protagonist headed for the exit, and the professor asked him to wait for him. The door to the classroom closed, and Tyron looked at the notebook. After some time, MC looked into the cup and said that he did not like it. He thought that the second reason he came to the Magic Tower was to meet the Master, perhaps even more important than meeting Tyron. Master of the Magic Tower, Ahmad Oslima apologized for keeping His Highness waiting. Zion turned his head to the side and thought it was Ahmad, Archmage who looked behind the veil of the universe's secrets, Eternal Seeker of Truth, Emperor of the White Flame, and so on. Ahmad is the holder of many titles, one of the strongest people in Chronicles of the Hero of Frozamar. Ahmad clarified that on the way here, he read about the formula that the protagonist wrote, so he was a little late. He sat down on the sofa and said that there were answers in it that were useful even for him. MC wondered where the Magister was. Ahmad lowered his head and replied that he had to leave for a minor family matter. It doesn't mean anything, so the protagonist can rest easy. Zion thought that Oslima comes from a noble ancient family of magicians. His family can boast of power and strength among the 5 most noble families of the empire. Also noteworthy is the kinship of the Magister with the 3rd Prince Enoch on his mother's side. Ahmad will never use power for the sake of the family or Enoch. After all, the Magister is tired of the family's struggle for power. 20 years ago, Ahmad renounced the family and since then has not conducted any external affairs. The Magister became a professor of magic and dedicated his life to teaching. Perhaps this time, Ahmad decided to visit the family to stop their attempts to appease him. The protagonist asked, then they would get straight to the point? Ahmad asked him to wait and said that he would like to ask MC something. Does the protagonist believe that there is such a thing as human essence? Zion did not answer and the master replied that he did. After he touched the secrets of the universe, he managed to look into human essence. Ahmad had already met the protagonist in the past. Unlike other princes and princesses, the essence of His Highness was pure and he could not forget it. The essence is unchangeable, as is fate. If it does change, a person will not be the same. Who is Prince Zion? The protagonist replied that it did not matter. What is important is that the man standing in front of the master is called Zion, and until now he has survived in the imperial palace. Ahmad was surprised and wondered, was it really only MC's essence that changed to survive in the imperial palace? Has Agnes's blood appeared in him? If even the protagonist's essence changed for the sake of survival, what the hell is going on in the palace? The Magister bowed and said that it was wrong of him to ask the MC a question. He apologized and asked why His Highness came here. Zion raised his fingers and replied that he needed 3 things. First, he needed information about the strange doctor's whereabouts and a way to contact him. Second, he wanted to improve the magic circle. And finally, he needed the Magister's help. Zion thought that the magic doctor was considered one of the 3 doctors in Chronicles of the Hero of Frozamar. He was extremely eccentric and freedom-loving, which is why he was nicknamed Strange. His location was constantly changing, and it was impossible to find him without special connections. It so happened that Ahmad was one of the doctor's 2 close friends. The Magister replied that perhaps he could help the MC. His protagonist would tell him the reason why he wanted to meet the strange doctor, and why he was going to improve the magic circle. However, Ahmad would not be able to help directly. He has completely dedicated himself to the Magic Tower. If he, a man who ignores his family and palace, helps MC, he will break his own vow. Zion clarified, and what if the Master's help is not related to the Imperial Palace, but to the Magic Tower? Ahmad was surprised and asked what the prince meant. Zion added that it was also about magic, which the Master needs to improve. After a while, Tyron asked if he should just go back. He thought that the professor was proud. He did not understand why the professor called him, but since it was related to his studies, Tyron should go. Tyron remembered the protagonist and said that they needed to study the prince's formula again, but he does not fully understand it yet. Tyron opened the door slightly and thought that MC did not seem to be smart in magic. Although thanks to Zion, he finally advanced. Tyron instantly stood in a stupor, seeing something in the room. He asked with great fear, "What is it?" The room is filled with dark streams of energy. Tyron squatted down and took the energy in his hand and thought, is this demonic energy or black magic? The one who called him, definitely. Plod called out to Tyron and asked what the student was doing here. Plod and his assistants looked at Tyron, sitting with dark magic in his hands. They asked in amazement what was going on. The professor yelled that this was dark energy. Tyron looked at his hands and thought, this is good. They set a trap. This complicates everything. If he gets caught here, they will definitely brand him a criminal. Tyron looked at the dark energy emanating from Plod and thought, he is sure that Professor Lindell is behind this, but now he can't prove it. Now he needs to get out of here. The professors asked Tyron to just follow them voluntarily, and they will not use force. They enveloped their bodies in mana and headed towards the magician. Plod grinned maliciously and thought, this is good. A while ago, the professor asked, is everyone here? Essien asked to get straight to the point. What was so important that the professor had gathered them all? Claude replied that it was not about their grades. There was something much more important. Essien clarified. Something more important? The professor approached him and whispered in his ear that today they would finally play their roles. Essien asked what the professor was talking about. Claude instantly pierced his chest with a blade. Essien coughed up blood and the students looked at him in fear. Claude quickly killed all the students. A cry of pleading was heard from the room. The professor smiled terrifyingly and thought that a trap had been set for Tyron. Claude now thought that, of course, he could just call the student and kill him. But that was not what his superiors needed. The protagonist noticed that something interesting had happened, and the professors turned their heads to the side. MC confidently entered the room. Claude thought that it was Zion. He had been told not to leave him alone. They want Claude to be careful with the protagonist, because the MC seems to be hunting them. No, that's even better. If the Imperial family is really hunting demons, blaming Tyron for everything is a very good option. If everything goes according to plan, he won't even have to kill anyone. Claude quickly raised his hand in front of the MC and yelled that this is dangerous. He asked the prince to stay back and exclaimed that they will deal with the culprit. Zion agreed and said that the culprits must be dealt with. Claude grinned maliciously and thought that this is good. Everything is going according to plan. Before he could finish his thought, the protagonist struck him in the neck. The professors looked at the fallen body in fear. The professor turned to his highness in fear. Zion stabbed the sword covered in dark magic into Claude's body. The professors yelled with great fear. "What is his highness doing?" The protagonist calmly replied that he was looking for the criminal. Dark magic spread out from Claude's body. MC thought it was working well. No matter how strong a demon was, he would never be able to resist a magic circle drawn directly on his body, along with a black star. Claude transformed into a demon and rose up. The protagonist angrily called him a damned half-breed. The professors asked in fear, "What is this?" Claude angrily exclaimed that since it came to this, he would have to kill all the fools here. Zion smiled and thought that he could not let the enemy do this. Powerful streams of wind threw Claude aside. MC raised his sword and used lunar eclipse. Claude gritted his teeth and called him a freak. He enveloped his fist in magic and quickly headed towards the protagonist with the intent to attack. Zion instantly slapped his hand on the opponent's face. He raised his sword enveloped in magic and used black flash. Claude quickly jumped to the side with his leg raised. He tried to attack, but the protagonist blocked it. MC pointed the sword towards Claude's fist and used black flash. The professors standing behind the shield watched what is happening. The professor noted that it was amazing. The opponents calmly prepared for the attack. They instantly struck each other. Tyron wondered who would have thought that the protagonist was so good. He can't help it. This sinister creature of darkness is insidious, and the gap between their forces is large. Claude thought that he won. The protagonist calmly asked, "Did the opponent know?" Claude's opponent is not him. Claude asked in bewilderment, "What does this mean?" Streams of magic quickly threw Claude aside. Ahmad sternly asked, "What kind of horror is this?" The protagonist turned his head to the side and paid attention to him. He thought it was the Magister. The strongest in the world, except for demons of course, are called the Seven Heavens. Among them is a magician who has the power to single-handedly wipe an entire city off the earth. They call him the Mage of Destruction. The master asked terrifyingly, "The demon is ready to pay for the sins, right?" Zion thought that Ahmad, or the white flame of the emperor, is the fifth heaven. After a while, Claude, engulfed in flames, screamed with rage. He gritted his teeth in pain. The protagonist thought that the demon was still holding back the fire. An ordinary person, having barely touched him, would immediately burn. The master looked at the demon and asked, "How dare Claude commit such terrible deeds within the walls of his magic tower?" The professors looked at what was happening in amazement. Claude quickly raised his hand with rage. Ahmad calmly asked, "Did the demon really think that he could get him?" He instantly waved his finger, and the demon was incinerated by flames. The protagonist used dark eyes and looked up and wondered, "Is this an enemy?" He quickly jumped up. MC kicked the flying stream of dark magic and asked where the enemy was going. Claude furiously called him a freak from Agnes. Zion pierced him with his sword, and the demon screamed in pain. Claude disappeared, and the protagonist landed on the floor. He looked at Tyron and thought that now he would not have to postpone the meeting with the character. Zion does not know how much this will affect the upcoming events, but at least they will not blame the crime on Tyron and leave. Tyron probably realized that the demons are hunting him and will not be so lazy anymore. The master asked, "Is no one injured?" The professor raised his hand and answered that everyone is safe. But what was that? Ahmad said that for now, they must keep what they witnessed a secret. He will take on all questions related to this case. The professors exclaimed that they understood everything. The master turned to Tyron and swept away that the student seemed tired. Tyron can go rest. Tomorrow he will take the student and they will discuss everything. Tyron calmly agreed with him. Ahmad turned to his highness and clarified that it seemed to be time for them to return to that conversation. The protagonist replied that he would be happy to. After some time, the master clarified, "So the demons are hiding among them? What should he do?" MC replied that what he asked for earlier. The master remembered the past. Zion said that since Ahmad had taken a vow not to interfere in affairs outside the magic tower, the master has no right to enter into conflicts of the palace. but improving the color identification system is of paramount importance. After all, in the future, it will play a key role in hunting monsters. Ahmad came out of his memories. After some time, Tyron quickly ran after MC asked him to wait. He stopped and clarified that he wanted to ask the prince something. Zion put his finger to his mouth and replied that he should not. Only the worthy can ask. In his eyes, Tyron has not yet deserved this. MC thought that not only is there no point in this now, Tyron will also be able to develop, but only on the side of the character. He is not going to raise Tyron. You can return to this thought when all the members of the character's team finally awaken. Well, having even one of them is not so bad, right? After a while, Tyron, sadly standing by the door, noted that only the worthy meant. He thought that he could not stop thinking about the strength of the master. But there is something amazing about Prince Zion too. The protagonist knew the exact answer in a theory that even he could not fully understand. And MC knew from the very beginning that Professor Plod was a criminal. Zion would not have done this if he was not 100% sure that the man was a demon. Next time Tyron will not be so lucky. Only the worthy can ask. Tyron noted that the protagonist was probably right and thought that he should become stronger to fight back if something like this suddenly happens again. And then next time he will come to Prince Zion and deservedly demand answers. After some time the car stopped on the road. The protagonist looked at his hand and thought, were the events of the previous night the consequences of using the lunar eclipse? Probably. For the next 4 or 5 days, he will remain in this state. Before the symptoms were not so strong. But it is a pity that Zion is so weak. If he had not absorbed the heart of the 1,000-year-old ogre, he would not have been able to use the lunar eclipse at all. You need to get to that strange doctor quickly. This is the most effective way to improve your physical condition so far. MC also benefited from this battle. The Black Star of the 3rd stage did it awaken after he killed the king of the Ghost Legion and used the lunar eclipse again, and as soon as the body is restored, MC will be able to move on to the 3rd stage. Zion clenched his hand into a fist and Thierry greeted his highness. She asked how the train went. The protagonist asked to tell first and asked if everything was ready. Thierry smiled and confirmed it. At the same time, Diana put her hand on the table. She threw her head back and thought that this black sword is definitely it. The sword that extinguishes the light. It is known that it was owned by the first emperor or the eternal emperor. In the underground treasury, she only saw a part of it. Who would have thought that the sword that extinguishes the light would end up in Zion's hands? What really happened? This sword was the only unchanging weapon of the eternal emperor. And this is an amazing symbolism. The fact that the sword ended up in the protagonist's hands cannot be ignored. No one talks about it only because only a few people know about the existence of such a sword and what it looks like. If the truth were to be found out, there would be an uproar, which is hard to imagine. Diana thoughtfully looked down and turned to Lloyd. He lowered his head, and Diana asked to assign as many spies to Zion as to the other members of the ruling family. Lloyd agreed with her, and she clarified, "Will the meeting on national issues be held soon?" Lloyd confirmed it. Diana thought that the Agnes Empire National Affairs meeting, the second largest meeting of the empire. It is an important event where the direct descendants of the imperial family and important figures gather. They decide the future of the empire. It is a very significant meeting. Just being there speaks of a person's influence. The National Affairs meeting is run by members of the imperial family, and their right to speak is determined by the number of council members who support them. In order for a descendant of the imperial family to participate in the meeting, the support of at least 10 members of this meeting is required. Zion has not yet secured the support of a single one. Diana raised her hand and said that he does not need to worry about it. She is sure that the protagonist will not be able to join the meeting. After a while, a red car stopped on the road. Cleon Havas, a local aristocrat, scratched his mustache and asked, "Is the National Affairs meeting going to be held soon? I wonder who will come up with what proposals this time." Cleon thought that he would support them at the meeting, and then return to neutrality. It seems that the 4th prince and the 5th princess have something to offer him, and Prince Zion will not get to the meeting anyway. What can you do? This is the limit of the power of a weak monarch. Cleon noticed that even at night the lights sparkled so brightly, just like the future of this immortal empire, and like his best future. Cleon yelled in great surprise. Where are they going? He furiously ordered to stop right now. The car stopped instantly and the driver jumped out into the street. Cleon asked in fear, "What is this?" Dark magical energy went to the side, and Cleon quickly jumped out of the car. He yelled in fear. A stream of magic hit the car. Cleon asked in great fear, "What is going on here?" He looked at MC walking in the dark. Cleon resolutely put his hand to his chest and yelled that he did not know who sent the enemy, but he would not give up without a fight. Cleon sent a stream of mana from his hand, and assistants appeared around him. He pointed at the protagonist and ordered to stop him. Cleon fell into a stupor, and the assistants looked at their fallen comrades. Cleon ordered the assistants to fight. Zion sent streams of dark energy to the sides. The assistants screamed in fear, and Cleon, falling to the ground, asked, "Who is this? Why is the enemy doing this?" The protagonist clarified, "And what do you think the aristocrat does?" Cleon asked in surprise, "Is this Prince Zion?" The protagonist answered that endless cases of bribery and illegal accumulation of wealth, owning dozens of slaves to satisfy bad fantasies, although slavery has been abolished, killing political opponents. Cleon interrupted him tensely and asked how the prince knew. Zion asked him not to worry and clarified that he would give the aristocrat a chance to improve. At the same time, Burkle Isert, with a bag over his head, is sitting on a chair. Thierry sat calmly across from him, with her arms crossed. Burkle asked, Thierry knew who he was and was still doing this? Thierry laughed and asked, he was great, wasn't he? Burkle pointed out that his family's knights were probably already looking for him everywhere. It wouldn't take them an hour to find this place. He wondered if Thierry would smile like that then. Thierry replied that she didn't think Burkle's knights would find him, and even if they did, Burkle would send them back himself. Burkle looked at her with confusion and asked, what did that mean? Thierry said that first of all, maybe he should read it first. She quickly tore the bag off Burkle's head. After a while, Enoch and his assistant came down the stairs amidst screams. Enoch's assistant turned to His Highness and said that Prince Zion might be attending the meeting. Enoch clarified, but he wouldn't have much support, would he? The assistant replied that it looked like the protagonist would be getting the support of the neutral council members. Enoch asked irritably, how dare MC show up at the national meeting? He thought that it was impossible to win over 10 of the 11 neutral council members in such a short time. Although it was Zion, Enoch turned his head to the side and said that they should intervene. While he was in the basement, she should find out everything about these council members. The assistant bowed, and Enoch created a portal with magic. After a while, under the moon, the protagonist thought that the best view was from here. If not today, then he would have to postpone it until after the National Assembly. If everything went according to plan, then something would happen soon that would change the course of history. If by then, he had not reached the 3 stars, it would greatly affect his plan. Dark streams of magic were directed away from MC's body. Black stars appeared, and Zion opened his eyes and thought that it was now. Dark streams were directed inside him, and the protagonist thought that if he could not stand it, everything would be for nothing. 3 stars appeared in the dark streams of magic, and MC thought that finally, he had his last chance. At the same time, Thierry looked up in amazement. A dark cloud with many stars appeared above the castle. After a while, the master of the Blood Tower, Kerma Dickholes, was sitting at the table. He noted that at this rate, the very existence of the Blood Tower would be in danger. He did not know what to do. In times like these, fellow blood mages need to unite, but there are too few of them. They could use at least one person who looked like the Witch of Heavenly Slaughter. No, they needed the Witch of Heavenly Slaughter. Kerma turned his head to the side and asked, what's the matter? The assistant exclaimed that there was an intruder. Kerma ran out onto the balcony and looked at the assistants flying in the sky. He was stunned, and Liu Shina exclaimed smilingly that there he was. After a while, Kerma asked, is Liu Shina really a bloodwalker? She irritably confirmed this and clarified that she had already said so. The assistants happily praised her. Liu Shina thought that taking control of the Blood Tower was easy, but what use are these guys? Who would have thought that people who inherited blood magic could be so weak? She doesn't like them. How annoying, but she has no choice. Liu Shina grinned ominously and thought that she needed to make them stronger. After some time, Louise said that Hiduk was killed. Edgar walked next to her and asked, is this Zion Agnes again? She said that it was possible. To be more precise, they lost contact with Hiduk. Around the same time he arrived at the magic tower, he said with a serious expression that he warned him to be careful. By the way, what happened to the magician? She said that of course he failed. Maybe he planned this and that's why Hiduk was killed? He said that it hasn't been proven yet. They also managed to find out something about the hero with the help of the Eyes of the Future. She said that Zion might also have the Eyes of the Future. Still, who would have thought that he would be so strong? He said that it was a revelation for him too. Of course he assumed that he might have help from the outside. She looked at him and asked, does he think that that monster from the magic tower could interfere? He agreed and said that this matter was related to the tower, so it couldn't have passed him by. Especially considering that there was no information leak, it was very likely that he interfered. She asked, so there was also a high chance that Akhmat was somehow related to him? He said with a calm expression that it was not so at all. After all, he had sworn not to interfere in matters outside the walls of the magic tower. He must have interfered because it directly concerned the tower. However, still, the reason why this matter was not made public was because the prince was involved. It seemed that he was in no hurry to reveal their existence to the world. She said that they were similar in that. She didn't know exactly why, but they needed to get rid of him, didn't they? Edgar said that there was only one way to get him out of the way without personally interfering. He had heard that Prince Enoch intended to kill Zion. It seemed that he almost hated him. Louise said that meant that they could only give him a little push. That guy is in charge of Prince Enoch, right? He agreed and said that he didn't like him because he was a bit weird. She asked if he wanted to talk to him. He agreed, and she said that a hero would show up soon. However, before that, he needed to eliminate as many irritants as possible. After a while, the first heir of the Ozlima family, Grodd from the magical powerhouse, laughed and said that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. Count Alstein, whom he addressed with a calm expression, looked at him silently. He sat down next to him and said that it seemed like the imperial family was not there yet. Apparently the same people would be participating this time too. He thought that the seats were for Emperor Erdios and First Prince Rubrio. The emperor might not be attending the meeting due to illness, but who would have thought that the first prince would be absent? There were rumors that he had become obsessed with the Order of Light and had dedicated himself entirely to it. Could that be true? He asked with a small smile. Sure. Had he heard the news? Prince Xian personally dealt with Regan Ursula and the entire Icarus magic unit. Isn't that impressive? Until recently, he was called the disgrace of the imperial family. However, in just a couple of months, he went through the succession ceremony and even defeated the Phantom Legion, one of the 7 calamities. He also dealt with the magicians. Is he happy with that? He was about to say something else, but Alstein asked him to stop and said that it had nothing to do with them, so he would prefer that he stop talking about it. Someone said loudly that Her Highness the 5th Princess Diana Agnes had arrived. She entered the hall and thought, so no one has come? They have been fighting over egos for a long time, with no advantage in finding out who will speak last. Should he prepare a rule to this effect at the meeting? Someone said loudly that Her Highness the 2nd Princess Evelyn Agnes had arrived. She entered and sat down in her seat. The 4th Prince, Utakun, walked in with a smile and asked if he was late. The 3rd Prince, Enoch, walked in and said that he apologized for being late. He sat down in his seat and thought, as expected, he couldn't come. How dare he even try to participate in the National Assembly? He should know his place. He only won over 2 neutral council members to his side, which means he has 9 supporting him and won't be able to participate in the assembly. It's a simple but effective method. He also brought back the council members he had won over to his side, so everything should go smoothly. He would like to see his face. Evelyn, with a calm expression, said that they should now begin the National Assembly. She didn't have time to finish her sentence because a servant loudly said that His Majesty the 6th Prince Xian has arrived. Everyone was surprised by what they heard and looked towards the entrance. He, with a calm expression, walked into the hall and sat down in his seat. The family members looked at him with a surprised expression and wondered how he was able to enter the assembly hall at all. Enoch stood up from his seat and said loudly that they should wait. Where did this freak come from? How did he manage to enter the hall? The guy said that His Highness the 6th Prince had received the support of more than 10 council members. Therefore, he had fulfilled the requirements to participate in the National Assembly. He said with a dissatisfied look that this was impossible. They should check it again. He looked at the document and said that everything was correct. 11 people were listed here. He thought with a shocked expression that this could not be. He looked at the rest of the people and wondered, are there more neutral councilors that he does not know about? Besides, he was supported by 11 people instead of 10. The protagonist said that he wanted to ask something. Why did he think that he only received the support of the neutral council members? He should think about his own people first. The people in the hall started looking at each other, and Enoch was very angry because of what he said. He sat in his seat with a smile and said that now they could begin the meeting. Evelyn said that among the items presented at the last national meeting, Grodd looked at MC and thought that his appearance had not changed at all. Otherwise, one could say that he was a completely different person. That is why Icarus lost. Now it makes sense why Regan claimed that he practices dark magic. He can cause trouble. He looked at the people in the hall with a calm expression and thought that there were so many familiar faces. He had to kill half of them and save the rest. Some of them were useful to him and some were useless. Some were connected to demons, and some were demons themselves. The first thing they needed to do was get rid of the easiest target. She said that they needed to summarize the results of the last meeting and get down to the urgent agenda. First, they needed to consider Utakun's proposals regarding increasing the military budget. They started discussing it, and Diana thought that it was too quiet. The meeting was coming to an end. He must have decided to participate because he needed something. Evelyn said that now that they had discussed all the proposals put forward, they would move on to the conclusion. She didn't have time to finish because Xian said that he also had a proposal. She looked at him and asked, did he want to talk about it now? He agreed and said that his proposal was a parade. He suggested having a parade a little earlier. She asked, was he talking about the Imperial Parade? She thought that it was a regular parade held by the Imperial family of Agnes. The Imperial family marches accompanied by their troops and knights in front of the citizens outside the Imperial city. This parade shows the citizens the splendor of the imperial family and informs them of its well-being. Also, this parade marks the accession of the heir to the throne. In other words, it is a way to convey news to the citizens. The event is significant, but it is not perceived as something exceptionally important. Besides, in order to hold the parade, the heir must have complete control over his troops, but he doesn't have that. Even postponing the parade won't help him much. Why did he suddenly want to hold the parade earlier? Was he serious? He said that it seemed like a week from now would be enough to organize it. Utakon raised his hand with a smile, agreed to it, and said that it was very good. Diana raised her hand, refused, and said that if they suddenly moved the parade like that, the entire schedule would collapse. She thought with a serious expression that he couldn't suggest something without a plan. Until she knew what he was planning, she had to be careful. Evelyn turned around, called Enoch, and asked what he thought. He raised his hand and agreed to it. He thought that he was trying to create an opportunity for himself. He was going to suggest it anyway. He was probably planning something again, but it didn't matter. This time, he would destroy him at any cost. After a while, Evelyn walked down the street and said that she didn't think he would go through with the succession ceremony, but it seemed she was wrong about him. She looked at the protagonist and thought that now she understood what Kieran's interest was. He said that it didn't seem like she called him for that. What does she really want to tell him? She asked why he suggested it at the meeting. He asked, is she talking about the parade? She said that as far as she knew, he didn't have anyone else except a couple of knights from the Palace of the Lodestar. Why did he insist on holding the parade early? He said that this way he would be able to attract their attention. She was a little surprised by this and asked what he was talking about. He spoke in riddles and she didn't understand him at all. If he needed knights for the parade. She didn't have time to finish her sentence because he refused and said that it was not necessary, although he had something to tell her. Sometime later, Diana was standing in the library and asked what he was planning this time. She didn't understand why he suggested it at the national meeting. She thought that he hadn't done anything until now. Is he really going to participate in the parade alone? A servant told Her Majesty the Princess that she had a guest. She was very surprised when she was told that it was His Highness the Sixth Prince. She sat down on a chair in the office and told him to come in. When he came in, she told her younger brother that it had been a long time since they had met like this. They were not close enough to have idle talk, so he should get straight to the point. What brought him here? MC said that he wanted to fight the third prince. She was surprised by this and asked what he just said. He seriously wanted to fight the third prince? He does realize how ridiculous that sounds, right? He said that was why he was going to make sense of it. He was asking to let him borrow her power for a while until he could defeat Enoch. She started laughing out loud at this and said that it was a very funny joke. If he was serious, then he should tell her why she would risk starting a war with one of the members of the ruling family to help him, her younger brother, who didn't have enough power. If she helps, what will she get for it? And why did he even think she would agree? She started emitting an aura and said with a serious expression that in order to agree on something like this, they need to be on par with each other. He doesn't think they are on the same level, does he? He said with a small smirk that he wanted to ask something. Who determines this level? He released his energy, which surprised Diana a lot. She looked at it and thought that this was neither magic, nor a combat technique, nor a star sea. It was similar to a star sea, only darker. Did she really get scared? He stopped using energy and said that she didn't need to interfere personally. All she had to do was hand over the elemental army to him. She said with a serious expression that he should let her ask one more thing. Why did he come to her? Zion said that it was because she hated Enoch the most. She asked if that was his whole reason. He said that it was also because he was under the Red Star Palace. Is that enough? He thought that in the chronicles, she attacked the third prince, who left the imperial palace during the parade. However, she herself did not interfere, so there was no full-scale battle. In the end, she lost. The reason why she decided to attack Enoch was not in the chronicles, but it is definitely related to what is under the Red Star Palace. Diana thought with a thoughtful expression that the third prince was definitely much more annoying. He was more cruel in his daring actions. She was going to make him pay anyway. Besides, considering that one unit of Agrasia had already been destroyed, and regarding what was under the Red Star Palace, she only had vague information. She asked, he must have devised a plan, right? After a while, Diana was putting books on the shelves, and said that she did not expect his plan to be such a large-scale one. She thought he was preparing a small ambush attack. She thought that he was not planning to participate in the parade yet. It's extremely dangerous, but if it works, they'll be rid of Enoch once and for all. Come to think of it, it's not that impossible. Or rather, a better opportunity might never come along again. In any case, she'd already agreed, and there was no turning back. She asked how much military force they had at their disposal. The servant said that all of the elemental army units except the 7th and 8th were on missions outside the capital. She said that they needed to gather them at the Blue Star Palace immediately. Let it look like they were preparing for a parade. Since she was going to do this, she needed to give it her all. After a while, Enoch entered the dark room and asked Dural, is he here, right? He went to him, agreed, and asked where else would he be if not at the Imperial Palace? He tried to communicate with him, and it seemed like their thoughts coincided. He said with a serious expression that he should stop talking such nonsense. How is the experiment going? He said that thanks to his materials, they had managed to achieve significant success, but more time was needed to bring everything to perfection. He thought it was at least another 2 weeks. He thought about it, is that how it is? It would be ideal if everything was ready for the parade, but everything is fine. It is not that important. He does not know why he suddenly needed to postpone the royal parade, but he will turn this idea against him. Dural remembered something and asked how the preparations for the parade were going. Enoch said that everything was great. As he said, Zion decided to hold the parade early to drive him out of the Imperial Palace. At night, he plans to secretly withdraw his troops from the Red Star Palace. He thought that if he only used the forces that would be at the parade, he could easily bypass his traps. However, this freak has already exceeded his expectations several times. He will destroy him with the superiority of his forces. Even if he does not attack, he will do it first. Diral approached him and said that it means that if something happens, they will definitely kill the 6th prince. However, His Highness must still be careful. The rumors about the 6th prince have been extremely unusual lately. He said with a calm expression that it doesn't matter. Even if he is 10 times stronger than they say, he is confident that he will destroy him this time. He thought that it will not be an easy death. As soon as he is overcome by despair, he will drive him into a corner from which he will never escape and will kill him in the most terrible and painful way. After some time, Thierry called His Highness the Prince and said that the 3rd prince has begun to act. The protagonist asked, "What about Lucina?" She said that she has just arrived in Hybris. He looked away and said that means she will be on time. She stood by and asked, "Is he leaving now? Perhaps it would be wiser to wait for the Witch of the Bloodbath to go to the Imperial City." He refused and said that it was necessary to do it now. He thought that the agreement with Diana, the proposal to hold the parade earlier, everything was done for this day. Enoch, this is his first target. Because he is the easiest target in the Imperial family, then he will become a difficult opponent. Under the Red Star Palace, the 3rd prince conducted experiments on people together with the demons. Soon he will receive the results of the experiments and quickly gain strength. In the original, the peak of his strength came during the parade, which was supposed to be held in a month. Then Enoch will be as difficult to defeat as Evelyn, one of the strongest. Also because of his increased strength, Diana's attack mentioned in the chronicles failed. The week he won by postponing the parade. This is the time he must kill the 3rd prince. It was time to start the first hunt. After a while, 2 guards stood at the entrance and said that Icarus was doing badly. Shouldn't the junior knights from the Imperial City be on guard duty? He should stop grumbling. Honestly, he's just grateful that they are still alive. He's right, but still, this is too much. It's not their fault, then why were they punished at all for the commander's bad decisions? He should keep a low profile for now. It's worth staying in the shadows. Once everything calms down, they will move to another magic unit. However, when will that be? They noticed MC walking towards them in the crowd of people. One of the guards was about to loudly warn about the attack, but at that moment, a guy named Albert was killed. He was about to tell them something, but at that moment he walked up to him and killed him with one blow and said that he was going in. He went inside, and the guards who learned about the attack ran towards him. An adult knight asked loudly, "How dare they storm the Red Star Palace belonging to Prince Enoch?" Lagut with a calm expression said that they should take out those freaks first. They used magic, created ice stakes, and killed several warriors in one attack. They were surprised because of this, and loudly said that the strongest elemental army of the Agnes Empire. Why is Agracia here? Son looked at the scene with a calm expression and thought that the strongest elemental army of Agracia, just a few hundred soldiers, were as strong as an entire squadron. Lagut stood nearby and said that the 3rd prince's office and bedroom were on the top floor. They would immediately clear the way there. He refused and said that they should go down to the basement because Diana wanted to make sure of something. After that, they all ran to the basement together and killed the guards who stood in their way. They stopped in front of the door, and he said that they should deal with them and go inside. They went inside, and he, with a shocked expression on his face, loudly called them damned freaks. They saw the mutilated bodies, and he loudly asked how they could treat human lives like this. They decided to stop them, and many monsters ran towards them. Lagut, with a very displeased expression on his face, said that Agracia would demolish everything here. They would not leave even a stone unturned. At the same time, the protagonist was climbing the stairs and killing the guards who tried to stop him. He thought that he needed to get to Enoch as soon as possible. Most of the Red Star Palace forces were probably in the underground lab. The guards tried to stop him and were discussing it loudly. He ran between them very quickly and attacked with his energy. One of them ran towards him to attack and asked loudly, how dare he arrogantly challenge them. Many other people also jumped towards him, and one of them said loudly that he would destroy him with one blow. He looked at him with a smirk and said that it seemed like he was the one who desperately wanted death. He used the dark flash skill and threw everyone around him in different directions. He thought that at the 3rd level of the Black Star, the formation of a dark circle is the most important change. Dark energy passes through the body and is converted into star energy. When all circles are activated, the energy exchange occurs much faster than just through the vessels, as it was originally. He killed everyone who stood in his way and said that this should be enough. After that, he ran further up the stairs to the door. At the same time, the radio operator of the 1st unit of Ergazia, Lagut, used magic against the monsters and said that it seemed like the end was near. Who would have thought that the 3rd prince would get involved with black magicians? He thought that the mere existence of a laboratory for experimenting on humans was shocking. but this disgusting energy filling the basement. He did not finish his thought because he noticed a door and asked what kind of place this was. He opened that door and said loudly that he could sense dark energy. Dural saw him and said that this was a problem. Immediately after that, he used magic and killed him. He watched the scene through a crack in the door and thought that he assumed that he needed an advantage for the parade. However, who was planning a full-scale battle anyway? What should he do? The elemental army would not cause any problems, but when his presence here was revealed, they would also find out that the palace was full of demons. If something went wrong, the grand plan would fail. He said that unfortunately, he had no choice. He used magic and escaped from the dungeon very quickly. He ran away from that place very quickly and thought that he would join the third prince later if they survived. First, they needed to get out of the imperial palace. His attention was drawn to the fact that someone launched magic projectiles at him and asked who he was. He waved his hand and reflected those projectiles with his magic. Lucina looked at him and said that he looked delicious. Diana looked at the scene from the window and asked if she should personally go there. She thought that the outcome of the battle would change dramatically if he joined. Frankly speaking, when she sent Agracia, she had already announced her intervention. However, how is he even going to fight Enoch? He can't handle it alone. He's very strong and reckless, and he has also mastered both the Star of the Heavenly Sea and magic. If Zion dies, that would be fine too, but she is still very interested in what is under the Red Star Palace. The third prince simply has to die. At the same time, Evelyn stood near the palace and asked, "The army of elements in the Red Star Palace? Does that mean he wanted it?" She remembered that earlier MC said that no matter what happens in the Imperial Palace before the parade, she should not interfere under any circumstances. She thought that, judging by the numerous emissions of elemental energy, Diana was also involved in this. Who would have thought that it would come to this? At the same time, Zion ran along the corridor and thought, were those magicians the last? This can't be. Immediately after that, he felt an attack from the side and blocked it with his energy. The demon girl was a little surprised that he was able to block her attack and asked, "His reaction is pretty good, right?" He swung his hand and threw it against the wall of this hall. Unexpectedly for him, another demon ran out, who hit him very hard. Because of this attack, he was thrown to the side, and he hit the wall hard. They are mid-level demons from the independent squadron Adum and Kizana. He asked if they were really needed here. She asked what the topic was. He said that Dural was doing too much. He only sent them to stop this guy. She said that it seemed like he didn't know that he was coming here alone. Everything seemed to be going just fine. There were some annoying rumors going around about him. Killing him, since they had their reasons, wouldn't be the worst option. He slammed his fists together and said that they should finish him off and leave already. It seemed like there was quite a commotion in the basement. She said that he could deal with him himself. The protagonist, with a calm expression, said that he wanted to ask something. He stood up, started dusting himself off, and asked how they felt about the bugs crawling on the floor. They should assume that these bugs were in their way and were talking nonsense about him not knowing his place and killing him and stuff. She looked at him and asked what he was even trying to say. He started using his magic and asked how they would feel at that moment. Wouldn't it irritate them? He, for example, is extremely irritated right now. She looked at him with a displeased look and asked how dare he. He ran towards her very quickly, grabbed her head and slammed it against the wall. Adam became very angry about what happened and loudly insulted him. He began to emit strong energy and loudly said that he wouldn't leave even a wet spot of him. He ran towards him very quickly to attack. He looked at him, used the skill Corpse Armor, and thought that if the light-absorbing sword, Eclaxia, is his weapon, and his armor is corpse armor, in addition to enhancing his physical abilities, his body is completely protected from any external influence. He punched the demon who was running towards him and used the skill Impenetrable Thunder. With this one attack, he killed Adam. Kazanya looked at what happened with a shocked expression and was about to ask something. He grabbed her head and said that they are quite durable. He used his magic on her and she screamed loudly in pain. He stabbed her with his free hand and killed her. After that, he stopped using his magic, walked on and said that he was clearly calling him. He entered the office and Enoch said that as he thought, it was him. MC looked at him and asked who else could it be. He looked at him with a very serious expression and said that he should greet his precious guest with all due care. At the same time, on the street, Dirol dodged the magical attacks with a worried look. Lushina looked at him with a small smile and used her energy to attack. She created several large red snakes that attacked him from different directions. He continued to dodge and wondered where she came from and who she was. She is almost as strong as the seven heavens. There was no way he hadn't heard of someone that strong. Was there anyone in the Imperial Palace who could use blood magic at that level? Escaping from the Imperial Palace was a priority. He would waste some more time here and the nightly order would come pouring in. He released many magic waves with his magic and they hit her. He was surprised by what had happened and wondered if it was that easy. He turned around and continued to run away from the palace. He was very surprised and turned around when he heard her ask if he was going somewhere. Her body was recovering from his attacks and she said in a serious voice that she wasn't done yet. Immediately after that, she released many snakes towards him with the skill Requiem Sangria. He started using magic again and fought off her attacks. She continued to actively attack him with her energy, and he tried to block this attack. Dirol jumped to the side and thought that at this rate he wouldn't be able to deal with this red-eyed woman unless he took on his true form. The problem was that his demon energy would be released if he did that. If he took on his true form, everyone in the Imperial Palace would know about him. Liushina walked up to him very quickly and told him that if he doubted, he would die. At the same time, Enoch said that at first he thought he was just an annoying insect, someone who would not cause any trouble if he was simply left alone. However, if he did, his mere existence would continue to irritate him. However, at some point, he saw how he began to change. However, he didn't care. He decided that during the succession ceremony, he was just lucky and thought that Evelyn helped him deal with the Ghost Legion. He thought that the case with Regan was just a mistake, but now he sees clearly. He danced on the palm of his hand. He acknowledges him, so he uses all his strength to kill him here. After that, he began to release powerful energy. He thought that the direct descendants of Agnes possessed the power of the Star Sea. Before his succession ceremony, among his siblings, he was the worst at handling power. He could understand the superiority of Rubrio and Evelyn. They had mastered the Star Sea before him. However, when he saw that he had been surpassed by Udakan and Diana, he was forced to look the truth he had studiously ignored in the eye. He could no longer deny the obvious. 4 stars, that was all the Star Sea had given him. He immersed himself in the study of magic. Did he have any family ties to the Oslim family? He could easily reach the 8th circle. Having learned to combine this magic with the Star Sea and deduced his own unique method, he finally became famous as one of the monsters of the Agnes family. However, this was still not enough. This still did not guarantee him the throne. He was unable to develop the Star Sea further. His progress in magic was painfully slow. Then he came to him. Dirol said that he would promise him the throne if he did one thing for him. Enoch thought that he accepted his offer and made an underground laboratory for him. Here they conducted experiments and mixed species. He even encouraged it, because the results of the experiments contributed to the growth of his power. Currently, he emitted a powerful energy and said that he would kill him. Zion said with a small smile that he wanted to tell him the same thing. Immediately after that, he created armor from his magic. He got up from the table and thought that he didn't know what this was at all. He began to use magic and thought that as long as this power was different from the Star Sea, he didn't care. No matter what kind of power was contained in this darkness, he would suppress it. He released many streams of energy towards him. He calmly walked towards him, swung his sword, and used the skill Dark Flash. With this, he dispersed this energy and ran towards his opponent, swung his sword to attack. Enoch looked at him with a confident smile and asked, "Does he think attacking him head-on is a good idea?" He clenched his hand into a fist and trapped him in a magical trap. Immediately after, he created numerous magical arrows from different directions. The protagonist was not fazed by this and said that this was the most effective way. He released a pulse of energy and dispersed all of his magic. Immediately after, he slashed with his sword. The third prince pointed his hand at him, created a magic circle, and used the skill Impenetrable Thunder. He continued to use magic and thought that it was amazing that his brother, who was considered a disgrace to the family, had become like this, but it was still not enough. He used the skill Galaxy Stream and hit him really hard from above. With this attack, he knocked him down to the lower floor, went down to him and asked, "Is this all he can do? Why did he even think he could defeat him with such tricks? Was he really that stupid that he couldn't even appreciate his skill? Or had he gone crazy? He is such a skinny guy and will always be a nobody. He will kill him and tear apart anyone who dared to invade his palace. This is how it should have been from the start." MC asked him to wait and with a smile asked what made him think that this was all he could do. He didn't say that this was the end. Kronos, one of the ancient gods, asked humans 5 questions. One of them was, how does time flow? The answer could be found in the power that came from that question. Freezing time is the main one of the 5 questions Kronos asked. Time is made up of infinite separate moments, and freezing time allows a person to linger in one of them indefinitely. The Ghost Legion was created using time freezing. He showed him the bracelet and said that it just so happened that this thing was made for this very purpose. Enoch reached out to him and asked him loudly what he was doing. Gears appeared around them, and he asked what he had done. Can't get enough air before he dies? He started using magic and thought that no matter what he used, he had no chance of winning. The gap was already too big. With his magic, he created many galactic copies that he sent at him. All these attacks flew at Zion, but he calmly walked on, and these attacks did not reach him. He ran up to him very quickly and grabbed his head. He dragged him very quickly along the corridor and slammed his back against the wall.
Thanks for watching. I'm going to introduce the new manhwa. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video,